Hi everyone, and welcome to the last week of classes. I'm sure you're all very busy with this class and other classes preparing for finals week. So I'd just like to take you through a little bit of what's due this week. Well, I had a book around here. Here it is. Well, actually, nothing's due this week. What's due next week for finals week? So this week you'll be going through and revising and beginning the process of completing your chapbook. You'll have this week and next week to do that. Also this week you need to read A Way of Writing by Stafford in your textbook in order to write your final blog post where you should reference this, and it will help you with your introduction to your mini book in general. So let's just take some time to go through what my expectations are for this chapbook. I know some of you have expressed a little bit of worry about this, so I just want to clear up any questions that you might have that I've heard so far, and I want to go over this whole assignment together in general. And for that, I'm going to show you guys my published chapbook from Five Oaks Press, Hook Through, to kind of give you an idea of how I organize my own chapbook and how you might begin thinking about organizing yours. So here's my dog coming. Okay, so basically, if you click on that link, it talks about how the culmination of this class is this book. Really, everything that we've been doing so far has been leading up to you compiling a book with polished versions of the creative pieces you've turned in for this class. That is one poem, one creative nonfiction piece, and one short story. By polished, I do not mean it has to be absolutely perfect, that it would win top awards, or that I'm going to really put any other kind of aesthetic judgments onto it about whether it's good. Because, you know, art is subjective, really. How can, you might be asking yourself, how can you grade me? What if you just don't like the style I use? Really, that's not what I'm going to be grading you on. I'm going to be grading you on if you have listened to the feedback of me and your peers, and if you have done some sort of revision that shows thoughtful and careful attention to what's been said. Now, that does not mean you need to change things about your piece if you disagree with things that have been said by either me or your peers. There might be cases that you found where even your peers and I disagree on whether something's working or not working. You just have to be able to show me that you've thought about this, and you have to be able to justify your choices that you've made artistically. So basically what you're going to do then is compile this, your 3 polished pieces. That means you've spent time on revision, all of that, with an introduction and a title page in PDF form, in a PDF file. So basically, after each genre section, you'll have the comments from me and your peers. You're going to be getting your comments on your poems back from me. They're all finished, but I've been waiting till midnight tonight, which is Sunday, when all of your peer comments will be in. So then first thing tomorrow morning, I'm going to post your grades along with your feedback from me on your poems. So you'll have that at the very start of next week. So read through the comments. Some of the comments you'll agree with, as I said. Take notes. Set the comments aside. When you return with a fresh eye, you'll be able to assess. Hopefully you did this after each workshop. And maybe you've already started revising. So for instance, your fiction piece at the beginning of the semester, maybe you started revising that and you'll go back to it again. So your introduction, basically, you need to tell me about several things here. Number one, how you've grown as a writer over the semester, and you've done some of that in the discussion post in your blog post. Also, why you decided to arrange and title the work the way you did. So for that, I'll kind of show you. Here's my book. It's called Hooked Through. And I called it that because it is an exploration of grief after a family member's suicide. And I don't know if you all have felt trauma. I know some of you in your creative nonfiction pieces certainly explained that feeling. But for me, my grandfather was a fisherman, And so this event left me feeling hooked through, kind of like a fish. And actually, that's the title of my first poem, which is about this event and about death, and is called Like a Fish. And so if I were to write an introduction for this, I would explain the title in that way. And then also I arranged this book into two sections, the first of which is really based heavily on fairy tale and the stories that we tell about death. And it's kind of an exploration of the way we talk to each other about death. And then the second section is kind of more real and bodily, and going into my own kind of feelings more than the first section. So that's two sections of poems. Now for you, you have the three different pieces, so you might explain that you start with your poem because it sets up a certain tone for the rest of the pieces, or you want to go from light to dark, or you want to put your poem in the middle because it kind of gives a break between two heavier pieces. It's up to you, but you have to be able to explain that too. I also expect that you'll mention readings and processes that contributed to your growth. You should mention in particular for every single um, piece that you've created for this class. I've told you another reading that I tried to choose to be specifically curated for what you're doing in your particular aesthetic in some way, or some way that you needed to grow. So I hope you read the readings that I suggested to you individually on your creative pieces. And so basically your introduction should mention those two when you talk about your growth as a writer and your process. This should be about 2 pages. So the checklist below shows you how I'm going to evaluate this. I'm going to give you 50 points for appearance. Down here it shows you how to save your document as a PDF. All documents should be submitted as PDFs. Those just look more professional. So is it professional? Is there a cover page with a title and image? Notice my brother drew this picture. You can choose an image from online. You can draw something yourself. But you should have your title and your image on the cover page. And then you need a title page, as you can see here. I have hooked through, and it has the press and all of that. And then you need the content, or I have acknowledgments, which is where they were previously published. But then the contents page, which has the page numbers, should be there too. And all of that, the appearance of your book in general, will be 50 points. So spend some time thinking about that. We as artists often have to think about those things in the final stages of our creative endeavors. So the second part is the introduction then. Does it contextualize the order? Does it address growth? Does it mention readings? That'll be 50 points. And then 300 points is the work well edited. Does it reveal real growth through revision? I don't want to see you just change a few commas, for instance, and say it's perfect, because that doesn't show any real growth. We all think deeply about our writing, and I think I've mentioned here before that even Tolstoy said he couldn't read his work because he felt like there was so much he could change. So at no point should you feel comfortable enough that your work is perfect. There's always ways that you can improve it. And then the third one, does the work illustrate an understanding of genre conventions and make an effective example of each genre? So does your poem show that you understand line breaks, figurative language, things like that? Does your creative nonfiction show that you understand that a story should be true, how to use the elements of fiction in creative nonfiction, but keep that focus on truth? And does your fiction, use the literary devices and elements that we've discussed in an effective manner? So again, I'm not going to be grading you on aesthetic things, whether I think it's good or bad. I'm going to be grading you on your process and your growth as a writer. So I hope that helps you understand in some way. And as mentioned before, make sure you submit that to the conclusion folder in the final chapbook slot here. So I hope you have a great week this week and during finals week. And as always, reach out to me if you need anything, if you have any questions or you're having any difficulties. I'm always here. Have a great week.